Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. We'll just let the last few people in from the waiting room. And thank you so much for joining us here tonight. My name is Julia Chang. I'm the Philanthropic Initiatives Officer at the New York Community Trust. We're so glad you could join us for our Long Island Community Foundation Town Hall. Please do take a moment to put yourself on mute if you're not already. We do want to make sure that we can hear all of our speakers, and you'll be able to raise your hands and unmute yourself when we get to the discussion and Q&A portion of the event. The town hall is being recorded and will be published after the event, and you're welcome to have your cameras on or off. Tonight, we're joined by our new president, Amy Freitag, who will be talking with Long Island Community Foundation Executive Director, David Okorn, Senior Program Officer, Sol Marie Alfonso Jones, and Long Island Board Chair, Patricia C. Marson. They'll discuss how the foundation works, some of the challenges currently facing Long Island, and how together we can work to make life better for all Long Islanders. After the initial conversation, we'll open it up to your questions, but please feel free to use the chat section, including typing your questions there throughout. And it's now my pleasure to introduce Amy Freitag. Amy brings to the Trust more than 2 decades of experience in the nonprofit, philanthropic, and government sectors. She has led family foundations, the New York Restoration Project, and was the Deputy Commissioner for the New York City Parks and Recreation Department. Welcome, Amy. The floor is yours. Oh, Amy, you're on mute.
Unmute. How about that? Starting off with a bang. Hello and greetings, Long Island, and happy Giving Tuesday. I am so thrilled to be here with my amazing colleagues. So right out of the bat, you might be wondering, why is the New York Community Trust here talking about the Long Island Community Foundation? Well, the truth is we are one and the same. The Long Island Community Foundation and the Westchester Community Foundation are divisions of the New York Community Trust. We are 8 counties strong, stretching from the lower Hudson all the way to the east end of Long Island. And so, of course, tonight, our focus is Nassau and Suffolk counties. Our Long Island team is located in Melville, and we've been serving these 2 counties for more than 40 years. As a community foundation, I like to think that we have 2 parts of our mission. The first part is that we take in and we steward funds from individual donors who want to support their community and make grants to local nonprofits. The second part of our mission is to distribute those funds and to care for provide resources to the grantees who are just doing such critical work in our communities. So tonight, we welcome people who represent both parts of our mission, donors and grantees, and really anyone else who's interested in the work that we're doing on Long Island. You may know us as a funder or as a convener. Attorneys may know us as a place to meet their clients' charitable goals. Tonight, we hope to connect all those dots and foster a richer understanding of how our donors and our grant making connect. And of course, I want to meet everyone and answer your questions. So let me start by saying here's the bottom line. Every grant we make or facilitate on behalf of our donors is thanks to the generosity of generations of New Yorkers. The Trust, including the Long Island Community Foundation and Westchester Community Foundation, are home to more than 2,000 funds. Some of those are permanent, some are advised by donors, and some of them are collaborative funds. It's predominantly our permanent funds and those collaborative funds that we have that fuel our annual competitive grant making program. And that really helps us focus on making life on Long Island better. This year, we made 102 grants totaling over $3 million to Long Island causes. We're among the largest and certainly the most permanent funder focused exclusively on Long Island. We've been here for generations and we are here in perpetuity. Our goal is to grow though now. We realize that there is so much more need on Long Island than we're able to meet. So we're looking to find even more generous New Yorkers and Long Islanders who want to help us meet our mission to make Long Island the best place it can be. And to shine light One of the ways we meet donors and support them is through the creation of donor advised funds, or what you may have heard of called DAFs. With these active donors, we work with them as they recommend grants to nonprofits on Long Island and actually anywhere in the United States. We vet the organizations that they want to grant to, and we expedite their grants. We can even provide donor advice on where a donor's dollars will go the furthest on Long Island. Ultimately, our donors call the shots. And if we're lucky, many of these donors will plan to turn their DAFs into permanent funds at the trust to ensure that the causes they supported during their active donor days will be supported long into the future. Working with the trust and the Long Island Community Foundation, donors have lots of choices. It's our mission to meet the donors' needs and to do all the good we can on Long Island. So that's really covering the part of our mission where people are for the donor part of our mission. But let's talk about how we get the funds out to some of our amazing grantees. On our competitive grant making program, which is funded by those funds that were given to us permanently or as part of our collaborative funds, we start the year with a budget and a strategy for each of our issue areas. Grantees can apply throughout the year by submitting proposals and projects. All of those projects are, of course, aimed at making life better on Long Island. We also sometimes put out requests for proposals, or what's known as an RFP. And those are issued by our collaborative funds or for special needs that arise, let's say, unfortunately, most recently, like COVID. All of these things can be found on our website. Our program staff, who are experts in areas such as education, arts, the environment, and health, they review the proposals we get from nonprofits who are serving Long Island. And the staff then propose which grants to make to our board, and the grants are approved 3 times each year. Now I'm going to turn the program over to my most wonderful colleague, David Okorn, who's led the Long Island Community Foundation for many years. David's going to talk more about some of our donors and the folks that we work with. David, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Amy. It's nice to be with all of you this evening and wonderful to see so many familiar faces in the audience. As Amy mentioned, our donors are what really sets us apart, and they truly come from all walks of life, some younger, some older, from those having modest financial means to some of our region's most prominent families, such as the Entenmann family. What makes working at the Community Foundation so interesting is getting to know our donors and seeing how their unique life experiences have and continue to influence their philanthropic aspirations. Then the fun begins as we introduce them to charities addressing the issues they care about most. As Amy mentioned before, we do this during their lifetimes. And for those who set up permanent funds, we continue to make grants in perpetuity to support the issues near and dear to their hearts, thus keeping their memory and spirit alive forever. While there are hundreds of examples that demonstrate the uniqueness of our donors and their funds, I want to highlight a few. One donor, Muriel Pless, wanted her family's legacy to continue after her passing, so she bequeathed her estate to LICF to support community beautification and to improve the quality of life for the elderly and people with disabilities. LICF continues to honor her charitable intent by making grants aligned with her interest. Another donor, Henry Shepard, who also left a permanent legacy fund, took a much different approach. He knew that the community's needs would continue to change over time. And as such, he provided an unrestricted fund so that LICF could continue to address the most pressing needs and ensure grants made in his name remained relevant over time. And how right was he? Who would have ever imagined the world being placed on lockdown due to a public health emergency, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the plethora of community needs that arose from that? Or the large number of unaccompanied children arriving from Central America, the opioid crisis, or expanding the list of contaminants or the expanding list of contaminants being found in our drinking water. And the list goes on and on and on. Another example is Bonvet, an animal hospital that provides both preventative and emergency care, which is continuing to expand across Long Island. As part of their corporate social responsibility, they created a fund that will provide grants to nonprofits, furthering the health and welfare of animals, both wildlife and domesticated. Being part of the New York Community Trust and Long Island Community Family Foundation also provides opportunity to bring like-minded donors together and pool funding, often leading to greater outcomes. We've done this for the protection and preservation of the Long Island Sound, addressing the racial wealth gap, and supporting our communities in times of crisis, such as Superstorm Sandy, or as I just mentioned, during the pandemic. Now, before I turn it over to Sol Marie, our Senior Program Officer, who is expert in so many things on Long Island, I just wanted to remind all of you, as Amy had mentioned before, today is Giving Tuesday, a worldwide movement to encourage people to do good and donate to charity. So if you haven't done so already, please consider making a gift to your favorite charity tonight. And with that, let me turn it over to Sol Marie.
Thank you so much, Dave. Greetings, all of you. I have had the honor and privilege of being a member of the New York Community Trust family, working at the Long Island Community Foundation for 13 years, while raising my family in the hamlet of Newcastle in Nassau County. Those of you in this Zoom room that are from Long Island know that our region is a vibrant, special place with many assets. But we also know that there are many challenges that impact far too many of our neighbors' livelihoods. Long Island is always portrayed as the Gold Coast mansions, the Hamptons, horse shows and film festivals, and the wealth of the East End. But this is certainly not the way that the majority of Long Islanders live, not even on the East End, where the population has grown by more than 20%. Many who are immigrant workers critical to the economy, but struggling to get by. The reality for Long Island today is that 1/3 of our neighbors earn less than $35,000 in a region where the cost of living is significantly higher than in most of the country. Despite these challenges, my work at LICF always fills me with hope because we can use the strength of our region's assets and the generosity of donors to address the needs. I'm also encouraged by our vital nonprofit sector, our frontline heroes that run towards crises to protect Long Islanders. Our competitive grants program, overseen by me and my esteemed colleague, Melissa Greenberger, supports Long Island-based organizations that stabilize families and communities. Like Amy shared, our priority areas include health and human services, workforce development, environmental protection, cultural arts, access to affordable housing, and other issues that affect quality of life. We also have a progressive social change fund with that was established with the Unitarian Universalist VEACH program at Shelter Rock. The Community Foundation digs in deep every day, and we meet our nonprofits in the trenches to learn about and respond to the crushing impacts of racial segregation, addiction, environmental toxins, inequity, and other social ills that create harm in every community on Long Island, from Elmont to Montauk and everywhere in between. For 13 years, this work has been meaningful to me, but I have never seen what we are experiencing today. COVID-19 and the related economic destabilization has left families that were barely making it prior in deep crisis. For many who were just making it, relying on human service systems is a brand new need. To make every family and community whole, we recognize that we must fortify the organizations that are vital to the recovery of our region and the survival of families, organizations that are often made up of the same people we help in community. In this last year, that need has been drastically apparent by the continual proposals from food pantries, mental health organizations, and nonprofits addressing domestic violence, child abuse, learning losses, and the basic safety, health, and well-being of families. And we work tirelessly to raise the funds to meet these immediate needs as impactfully as possible. In addition to addressing day-to-day needs, we also support efforts for large systemic change like keeping toxins out of our water, ending hunger, ensuring equitable access to quality health care, and closing the racial wealth gap like Dave shared. Let me share an example of a project we supported that had big gains for Long Island. One thing Long Islanders consistently agree on is the importance of protecting our groundwater and our aquifers from contaminants because they're our sole source of drinking water. Between 2016 and 2018, we awarded grants to the Citizens Campaign for the Environment to raise public awareness and support for policies to stop the use of a toxic chemical found in many common personal care and household products, including baby bath products. This chemical, which is listed as a likely carcinogen and a hazardous air pollution by the US EPA, was detected in 92% of public water systems tested on Long Island, and it's not removable by existing treatment technologies. It was the highest rate of detection in the country, yet New York State had not set a standard for a safe standard for drinking water. Prior to the work of Citizens Campaign for the Environment, there had been no regional remedial action or even awareness at the local level of the threats to public health. Long Island has a higher cancer incidence rate than the state rate, so this effort was crucial for our region. After 3 years of testing products, identifying and sharing water contamination data, educating the public and elected officials, and advocating for policies, Citizens Campaign was victorious and Long Island won. New York State passed legislation banning the use of this contaminant, the first of its kind law in the nation, which will go into effect this December 31st. And local governments are now using new water treatment systems to remove the chemical from drinking water, potentially preventing cancer in thousands of Long Islanders. The Long Island Community Foundation is driven by one purpose: invest in a region that we live in, work in, and raise our families in, and do so with trust, integrity, and the relentless commitment to meeting the needs of the organizations that are changing lives. Our deep knowledge of place, our regional approach, and partnerships with other foundations on and off Long Island allow for greater impact. Some of you are on this call, and we greatly appreciate you. I am proud of the work we do. It sustains my belief in the opportunity and the future of our great region, a region that is admittedly flawed in many respects, but that resolves its challenges when we work together. It's working with the extraordinary community every day that reinforces my certainty that Long Island can lift up every neighborhood and make sure that every child who calls Long Island home gets to be the best version they can be. Thank you. Passing it on.
Oh, Saul, that was fantastic. And, you can all understand in this room why even before I got involved at the New York Community Trust, I was a partner with the Long Island Community Foundation, because when you can work with a partner like Saul and David and their whole team, you have an insider look on what the needs and the opportunities are. And I just wanted to, that's such a powerful story talking about the groundwater issues and toxins. My question is, looking forward, what are some of the things that you're seeing coming down the pike that you feel like we really need to rally donors around? What are the opportunities to make those kinds of system changes on Long Island you see coming down the pike?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to underscore that that supporting our nonprofit communities writ large is extremely important, because they're suffering and we need them to be strong in order to be able to respond to the issues. I think that this this uncertain economic environment that we live in is something that we need to address head on. We need to be not only supporting food banks, but we need to be supporting opportunities for Long Islanders to improve their own situations through training programs. We have opportunities now in this innovation economy that has always been Long Island, to connect people to higher paying jobs, self-sustaining jobs. And there are many opportunities to do that. So I think that that's one way that I would say, one thing that donors could be looking to do. I also think that we should focus on, and we are focusing on, challenges that our young people are having, their emotional well-being. A lot of our young people are suffering, and it's actually, really concerning, because our children are our future, and because this is something that we, that has an impact on all of our communities. So I think that that's another issue that donors can pay attention to. There are opportunities for us to support organizations that are helping our immigrant communities, become acclimate and also get adjusted to our community, and also have an opportunity to thrive. Our region is a very, very racially and ethnically diverse region, and it's an exciting time. And so providing an opportunity to all of our neighbors to be able to prosper is another issue that I think is really important. And then the final one is something that we have for a very, very long time been working on, and that's addressing this racial wealth gap that has been longstanding on Long Island. The disparities are very well documented, and addressing it in a way that's going to benefit the entire region.
Absolutely. I'm just so struck by the power of an individual donor. You think about some of the work that gets done on Long Island, that one donor can make an enormous difference. And I think that's especially true when we've talked about, for an example, some of the incredible legal work done to support immigrant communities, and that, one contribution could be a real game changer for an immigrant family going through the asylum process. So I think what's great about the Long Island Community Foundation, you work with individuals that make small gifts all the way up to people that leave large bequests and legacies. And all of that accrues to doing all the good that you're doing on Long Island. So you and your colleagues are amazing. And I feel so honored to get to work with you, and, just grateful. And as anybody can see that, we have an entire way of doing philanthropic advising, a program that's available to all of our donors and other foundations to help strategize, run programs, and much more. And so you can have the joy of working, as I get to the joy of working with Sol and her colleagues. So next up, I'm very honored to introduce Patricia Marson, the chair of our Long Island Community Foundation's advisory board. She is a partner at Rivkin Radler, a law firm based in Uniondale, where she concentrates in personal, family, and business planning. She's worked with us over the years to create charitable legacies for several of her clients. So I'm passing it over to you, Patricia.
Sorry. Thank you, Amy. I'm thrilled everyone is here, and I'm so happy to be here. I love being the chair of the LICF board. It is an amazing opportunity, and it sure gets my endorphins going. To be able to work with Dave and Sol and Melissa and Jeannie and Marie, it's just an amazing staff. What they do, what we all do, is connect charities and the people that need help with the donors that want to give. It's also the charities can contact the LICF to get more information about how you can apply for a grant. The LICF staff wants to know about you. If you're a charity out there that has not had contact with the LICF staff, please do. Please contact us. We want to know about you. It's really important to support everybody that's doing good work on Long Island. I have learned so much being connected with the LICF. I never realized, I've always been kind of partial to charitable organizations, but I never understood the needs that we really have on Long Island. It is so deep. It has been so eye-opening. I'm so grateful for all I've learned at the Long Island Community Foundation. The other thing is, if you have a need for something and you're looking for a charity to give to, you can contact the LICF staff and they'll tell you who's doing the best work in that area. It's an amazing resource on both sides, for the charities and for the donors. I also like connecting my clients when it makes sense for them, when they're charitably inclined. It's a great opportunity and way of giving and creating a legacy. So I had clients that where their father had left $2 million in a private foundation. Four brothers all across the country. They had no interest in running a private foundation, which is, if you know, it's a lot of work to run a private foundation. There's a lot of filing, there's a lot of rules. Instead, they opened a fund at the Long Island Community Foundation. And now the brothers get together once a year and direct donations to causes that they all care about. That's what their father wanted. That was the purpose of the private foundation, was to keep the family together. But you don't need to spend all the money running a private foundation. You can do it through the Long Island Community Fund, whether it's through a donor advised fund or a field of interest fund, which is broader, but you're still involved. You can do something as small as create a donor advised fund in memory of a loved one. I created a fund when my mom died, the Christine Morrison Family Fund, to honor my mom. And I still continue to give to that fund and make grants through that fund. The other thing, Dave had mentioned corporate responsibility. And I'm also on the board of the Huntington Hospital, which is a part of the Northwell Health System. Northwell wanted to create a scholarship fund, and I kind of put people together, and it turned out that LICF was able to create and customize a scholarship program for Northwell to run their scholarship program through. I know there's millions of dollars that's going through there. Right now it's on Long Island. It's going to expand to the 5 boroughs and to Westchester. It's to help underserved communities, students in underserved communities, but it's also to create a future workforce. So it's really cool. And that's the kind of wonderful things that can happen through the LICF, the connections that are made. I'm just very, very grateful that I have the ability to work with these people. They're just wonderful. So I encourage you to reach out and connect with the Long Island Community Foundation. Thank you. I'll turn it over to you, Amy.
Well, you can see why Patricia is such an incredible part of our operation in Long Island, and we are so grateful for you and your fellow board members who give so much time and energy to the Long Island Community Foundation. So we're about to open it up for comments and questions, but I just want to say one more thing. So I was a fan of the New York Community Trust and the Long Island Community Foundation long before I became involved as a member of the team. I was a grantee, I was a fellow funder, and I was a big believer in what it meant to have a community foundation on Long Island. Like our peers across the country, our community foundation is a force for good, for equity, for democracy, and a vital Long Island. As we've said, you don't have to be a billionaire or a millionaire to have an impact on your community. You can be a donor with as little as $100. We welcome people who give at all levels. We want you to be a part of our community of donors and share in this joy of giving. Whether that's a $100 contribution to the Community Needs Fund or a legacy worth millions of dollars, it is the diversity of our broad community of donors, board members, and nonprofit partners that makes a difference on Long Island. Together, we can fight hunger and homelessness and the effects of a changing climate while lifting up the arts and education. But we need to do this work together. And that's why a community foundation is just the right partner for you to be a part of here on Long Island. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Julia, and she's going to lead us through some Q&A.
Thanks so much, Amy. So we invite questions from everyone in the audience at this time. So you're welcome to place your questions into the chat and we'll read them out loud. You're also welcome to direct message me if that's more comfortable, and I'll also read the questions out loud anonymously. Or you're also welcome to raise your hand. You can do that by clicking the reactions or smiley face icon at the bottom of your screen and clicking the raise hand icon, and we'll call on you to unmute yourself so you can ask your question directly and engage with our great team here at the Long Island Community Foundation. So I know that we're welcoming a number of people from our greater, larger trust community today. So we'll try to get to as many folks as possible. So we'll start with the first question in the chat. So how are Long Island nonprofits doing in the post-COVID environment? Have their financials bounced back? We know that it was a really challenging time financially for so many nonprofits. And is my gift as a donor going to make a difference?
Well, starting out, I'd just like to say, I think what we're seeing is, in the wake of the pandemic, there's been, and with inflation rates going up so high, there's been so much more need. So our social service agencies are really struggling to keep up with the demand. So there's been a lot of increased demand, a lot of it, based on the economy. And so those agencies are seeing more need and struggling to raise the money to support all the people that need that help.
Great, thank you, David. So large multi-service organizations, as we know, have unique needs. So what programs or funds does the Long Island Community Foundation have that meets the needs of those large multi-service organizations?
So, we recognize that many of the issues that are impacting our neighbors are intersectional, right? I mean, dealing with one issue is not necessarily going to solve the problem. So it's important for us to work with multi-service organizations that have their finger on the pulse, that have the ability to leverage, the resources that we're able to give in maybe one area to kind of ensure that the whole person that is being served is being cared for. We don't fund general operating support. However, there are many opportunities for our funding to help multi-service agencies meet their goals and serve their clients.
Great, thank you, Sol. So can we briefly talk about substance use and mental health crisis issues on Long Island? Perhaps we could share a bit about the context for that issue on Long Island and some of what the foundation is doing around that. Dave,
you want to start, or do you want me to? Because
I'll start. So again, it's a major issue that we recognize. We had started up with the opioid crisis, a heroin response fund, an opioid response fund, which was a collaborative fund to help try to address that issue. We also, to really bring light to it and how bad the crisis was, hired an outside firm to actually report on statistics just for our local region, so that we had a better handle as to what was really going on in Nassau and Suffolk counties. And actually tomorrow at our board meeting, we're going to be discussing changing our mental health strategy to address just that, mental health and substance abuse for our youth, because that's where we're seeing the biggest preponderance of those issues. Sol, anything you want to add?
I mean, the only other thing that I would say is, and Amy and I have had numerous conversations, prior to her being part of the family, about the hidden needs of the region. And, people are shocked when we share with them that Long Island was number one, Suffolk County in particular, in opioid-related deaths. It's just not something that you think about when you think about Long Island, and yet that was the reality. And you know, our region continues to suffer with addiction, and so, you know, the only thing that I would say in addition to that is that we have some amazing service providers in that area, and they're the experts on what's happening and what are the best strategies, and we rely on them to tell us, you know, how to either you know, to inform donors or use our own grants to alleviate this issue. And you know, and I believe that not only in this issue area, but in every other one. We're not the experts, but we know who the experts are, and we really appreciate that partnership to, you know, improve the lives of Long Islanders.
I agree with you, Saul. I think it's a huge problem. I think there's still an awful stigma, mental health and substance abuse. I think we've tried to get the issue out there, and I think people are afraid to look at it frequently. So when we make grants, I mean, we get a grant request from, let's say, LICAD, because they know what the specific issue is in that area and what needs funding. And then our board, well, our program staff researches it, and then our board considers it and votes on it, so that we can support the programs that mean the most and are having the greatest impact on Long Island, which doesn't always mean hitting, you know, 50 people or 100 people at once. It could mean hitting 20 people at once. Those are 20 human beings that need help, that are part of our community. So,
Yeah, erasing the stigma is a huge part of really getting ahead on this issue. So it is something that we're going to continue to try to address here.
Thank you all. So a question about giving and donations. For smaller donation amounts, when does it make sense to give directly to an organization? When does it make sense to go through your donor advised fund at Long Island Community Foundation? What are what's some guidance that we could help provide there?
Well, the minimum to start a fund at the Community Foundation is $5,000. So if someone wanted to create a fund, that is the minimum. And then the minimum grant that they can make from their fund is $250. So again, depending on someone's philanthropic intent, what they're looking to do, we can see if a fund at the Community Foundation would be the right vehicle for them. Again, if someone's looking to make a $100 grant out to an organization, if we know the issue area that they're looking to address, we should be able to point them towards one of the most effective organizations that are addressing that issue. And the other great thing about a community foundation, as I had mentioned before, is that we have a multitude of donors. So hopefully we can get a number of donors to also give to that cause for greater impact.
I think a lot of times people don't know exactly what they want to give to. Sometimes they do, and if they do, they should give to that organization directly. But sometimes they're just not sure, or they want to aggregate their funds with other donor funds, and they can talk to the program staff at the LICF to see how can you make the greatest impact with your dollars. So there's so many ways to use a community foundation to affect what you want. That being said, really, if you do have a small donation and you have a particular charity that you want to benefit, you don't want to go through a community foundation. You should make the donation to that organization.
And then, of course, if people just can't even decide among all those great organizations that we're supporting, we have this great thing called the Community Needs Fund. And you can just make a simple contribution to that. And you have these very smart people on the screen that are going to make sure that goes to where the greatest need is. So you have, as Patricia said, lots of options of ways to give.
Thanks, Amy. Dr. Sylvia Diaz, I see your hand is raised. No
Just
question?
Just unmuting. You can hear me, right? Okay, great. Yes, I'm Sylvia Diaz. I'm with Suffolk County Community College. And Patricia, I was very excited to hear you reference the Northwell Community Scholars Funding. This funding, you gave a little bit of a short snippet on it, but I have to say, this is really transformative for our community. This initiative, and I'm glad to see that it's growing, is part of their community health and disparities initiative. Suffolk, of course, attracts a lot of diverse students. We are Hispanic student. We have a large Hispanic student concentration in the at the Brentwood campus, and 50 students who are now receiving wraparound services and support are almost guaranteed to graduate. We are so committed to that. And so it's very, very exciting. Our partners in Nassau as well. If I sound a little excited, I'm sorry, but this really is transformative for us. And thank you to Marie Smith, of course, her vision on this, and collaborating with her to make this happen. We are so committed to the success of these students. I mean, we literally have all hands on deck to ensure that they graduate and succeed. And in many cases, they're the first generation, and it will lead to subsequent generations of college attending young people. And of course, many of our students live and continue to work and build their lives on Long Island. So I kind of wanted to talk about a very, very exciting time. Thank you for having us here tonight. And a couple of my other colleagues are on as well. But it's just so transformative, very, very exciting. And it's inspiring. I talk about this a lot to many of our donors, and talked about it to our board today. It's really exciting and transformative, and we're excited for what's going to happen with these 50 students in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and we're really excited to be expanding that program over the next 5 years. So ultimately, it's a major commitment that's being made by Northwell. It's going to become a $5 million a year scholarship program that's going to reach out into the boroughs as well as Westchester County. So it is a really, really exciting opportunity. And as you had mentioned, I think one of the most important pieces of it is all of the wraparound services that are being provided to ensure the success of these students. So it's a really great program, and we're proud to be, kind of facilitating that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because it's nice. It's great to hear what's going on and how it's being used. It's terrific. So thank you.
Sure. And Dave's an alum, by the way. Right, David? You're an alum of Suffolk, right?
Yes. Well before my hair turned gray.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Diaz. So we have time for one last question. Are there any grant opportunities available in the affordable housing space? Can we talk a bit about our priorities for affordable housing in our programs in Long Island, in the Long Island Community Foundation?
Yes, a resounding yes. Affordable housing is so central to so many of the things, if not all of the things that we talked about today. And Long Island is in need of more of it, of different types of housing options to meet the needs, the changing needs of our population. And we have been actively involved in trying to work with our nonprofit partners and other stakeholders and fellow donor partners to create opportunities for advocacy, for more affordable housing, for tools and resources that can help the region with this issue, and so many other priorities that or strategies that the Long Island Community Foundation has supported. We continue right now to be involved in in work with a coalition that is looking to advance fair and affordable housing in the region. It's a multi-stakeholder, very dynamic group of nonprofit developers and housing advocates and environmental advocates and health and human service direct service providers. And it's a really robust group of people that are working together with one voice to address this really big need in the regions. I'm really appreciative of that question. It is a big priority for the Community Foundation and will continue to be as long as Dave and Trish say it's going to be.
Great, thank you so much, Sol. And I believe we're right at time. Great job timing everything out, panelists. And I just want to thank you all for such a thoughtful discussion, and to all of you in our community for joining us tonight. We'll pull up a slide in just a moment with further contact info. If we were not able to get to your question tonight, please do email us. We'd love to be in touch. You can email us at info@licf.org or visit our website as well, and we will connect you. And do follow us on social media to stay up to date on what's happening at the Long Island Community Foundation. As a reminder, the event was recorded and excerpts will be shared if you have friends or colleagues who couldn't make it today. Again, thank you so much for all who joined us. We hope you have a great evening, and we look forward to being in the community and spending more time with everyone, and happy holidays.
Thanks, you guys.